Moving on, it is, of course, a race against time in Nepal's Pokhara as the future looks bleak for the quake-hit region. Amir Haq has sent this exclusive ground report from Pokhara.
About 200 kilometers away from capital city Kathmandu, we are in Pokhara right now, a very popular tourist destination for the tourists coming into Nepal. And the devastation that we'd seen in Kathmandu and other districts adjoining the epicenter area is not seen here. Thankfully, most of the buildings out here, in fact, most of them have been saved, and only the very old ones on the outskirts of the town area have been found to be damaged. But there's a very genuine concern among people here because the tourists have left these the hotels in large numbers, and this is something that the local people are very concerned about. How many people have actually, do you think, the tourists have already left the place, and how is it such a big concern for you at the moment?
Well, there is not many numbers of tourists are moving from here because after the earthquake, the government decided to not to make an open any access because they closed suddenly the airlines and also the traffic highway. So it is tourists are very normal life here. All the hotels are very safety, no any problems around Pokhara, and very safety and life is normal and everything is very controlled here. And
so you want to assure the people that all the tourists coming into Pokhara will be safe. So please explain, what did you apart from other people, went through yesterday when that earthquake of magnitude 7.9 hit this area. What was the scene like?
Okay, the first hit was a little bit terrible. We didn't know what was happening throughout the country and what Pokhara was in the condition. But aftershocks are very normal in Pokhara, and the tourists in the beginning they didn't know what to do. But we contacted. I believe all the people, as you were just telling me, they were out on the roads because nobody wanted to stay inside the hotel around that time. This is the universal lesson. Whenever you have earthquake, nobody should live in the house. They should come to the open place. We urged them. We went to the room and we brought them to the street as well, open space. So they felt that personal touch was working there as well. And now all the tourists in Pokhara, they are already well known that.
Well, cutting across to my colleague Manogya Lohiwal is joining us live from Kathmandu. In fact, Manogya and a team of our reporters are there reporting in extremely difficult circumstances. Kumar Abhishek, I can also see with Manogya. Manogya, difficult circumstances there in Kathmandu, and with this rain that we are in fact hearing of, that we are seeing in the visuals as of now, and the prediction that the Met Department has put across for the next 48 hours, the problems only compounding for Nepal.
Well, it's been a very, very difficult day, and as far as the weather is concerned, I would surely I would like to inform you that it's not just about the weather but also the conditions that we've been working all during the day. And I have with me our managing editor Rahul Kamal also. Rahul will describe his experience. Rahul, what has been the experience going around Kathmandu today?
We've just landed from the Kathmandu airport, and there are no taxis available over there. There are thousands of people, and since several of them are trekkers, they've got their trekking equipment. They've pitched tents. As you can see, it's raining quite heavily here in Kathmandu, and there were no taxis available at all, so I had to jump onto a motorcycle to be able to get here. Then finally we found a tourist who gave us a bit of a ride. There 5 flights have been able to land. There's a Bangladesh Airways flight that's been able to land. There's an Etihad flight that's been able to land. There are some Indian Air Force sorties that have taken off and landed. The weather is packed up again. We had an 8-hour flight from Delhi to Kathmandu. We came to Kathmandu the first time over, but it started, there was another earthquake and we had to go back. So then we went back to Delhi. We were in Delhi for quite a while we were waiting for our pilot to establish a connection with the ATC in Kathmandu. After waiting for almost 2 hours, we were given permission, and then Manogya, we took off again to come to Kathmandu, and then the weather packed up. There was lightning all around our plane. There was a heavy cloud cover, lots of rainfall. we just kept hovering. The pilot, I must say, Captain Javed Khan, did an absolutely exemplary job, because SpiceJet cancelled their flight, Air India cancelled their flight. There was a lot of anger amongst passengers. They've been waiting over there. Indigo was the only airline that was able to land despite these adverse weather conditions. And we hovered for about 2 hours. Finally, there was a window of opportunity. There was a Air Force sortie with rescue material on board that tried to make a landing, and they ran into, because when you're coming into Kathmandu, it's a valley, so you have to enter the valley, and there the weather pocket is very complicated, and he had to make a mayday emergency landing. So there was all kinds of chaos. There are thousands of people at the Kathmandu airport. Some of them are rich, affluent tourists, so hoping to get onto one of the private airlines and go back. There are several laborers from West Bengal, from Bihar, who come here to Nepal to work. They're just out on the roads. The trekkers still have tents, they have mountain gear. These poor laborers are just out on the road waiting for some kind of help. And it's going to be a long, long night, because since it's raining again, it'll be very difficult for flight operations to resume, Manogya.
Well, of course, and also understanding that I travelled across Kathmandu today, and we saw that the houses had fallen like pack of cards. People were trying to search their own children there, and that was the most painful story we could ever cover, where parents are trying to search. They could hear the voices of the children till early in the morning, but they said they were not hearing the voices also now, and that's what was making them even much more difficult. It's not just about weather and the earthquake, but also the pain and agony that they will be living through.
And the fact that it's now started to rain, because you've got buildings that are very vulnerable. There was a 6.7 earthquake on the Richter scale this afternoon. The buildings are vulnerable. It's raining. This is now breeding ground for all kinds of medical problems. We were on board with some Israeli officers from the Israeli embassy. A colonel is flying down. He's bringing two medical hospitals. He's bringing two hospitals that will set up next to one of the hospitals. In several hospitals that we saw, patients are actually out on the streets because there's no space to keep them in. So the outward patients are out on the streets. Hopefully the Israelis are coming in, the Chinese are coming in. There was an American with us also on the flight. They're hoping to set up some medical facilities. All of that will take time, but what's important, Manogya, is for flight operations to resume, because unless that happens, it's very difficult to be able to try and get these rescue operations underway.
Well, absolutely, and I would also want to put one point across, that it's not just about Air Force and the other sorties that have been flying during the day, but the fact that it's very difficult for anyone to land with a cracked airport, with the runway that has been cracked, and the fact that it has been extremely difficult because of the weather condition. Despite the earthquake and the turbulent conditions that we've been seeing through, we've seen the madness in the people where they refuse to even enter their houses again. They feel that they are wearing helmets and sitting in front of their houses rather than going back to their homes.
Even at the airport, if these two people holding the umbrellas can just move across. Ek minute aap hat jaiye, please. I want to show our viewers just how dark it is in Kathmandu. There's absolutely no electricity anywhere. There's no water supply. The airport is a complete mess, and even outside people were very concerned. Even at the airport, people would rather stay outside the airport than stay in, because they were so concerned about the possibility of another earthquake. They didn't want to stay inside. They were out. There was a complete mess with all kinds of chip packets, juices, all of them lying all around, but they didn't want to take the risk of being inside. Everyone we've been speaking to since we've landed has been narrating harrowing tales of what happened when that big trembler struck. The fact that several people actually jumped out of their buildings, which is a very dangerous thing to do, but that was their first response. They didn't know what the best response at that time would be. They jumped out of their windows, and that again is very, very dangerous, Manogya.
Well, absolutely, not only about dangerous, but also the fact that it's risky. And of course, beyond all this, we've been seeing and telling you stories, and of course the experiences of people that they've been observing and feeling on the ground zero, and we'll keep coming back to you with more.
Manogya Lohewal and Rahul Kanwal there right at the ground zero in Kathmandu. Thank you so much, both of you. It is, of course, difficult circumstances to report in, and as the weather is again packing up, it's raining there in Kathmandu. There is no electricity. Thousands and thousands of people are out on the streets under the open sky. They do not want to go back to their houses. This has been compounded, the fear has been compounded by another a big earthquake at 6.9 on the Richter scale that took place today. Nobody wants to go back to their houses. There's fear of epidemic. There is fear, the death toll is rising. And with this, it is severely hampering the relief and rescue operations. For survivors of Nepal quake, it's an unending nightmare. Many, while escaping for certain death, have had the misfortune of seeing their loved ones in the grip of death. Manogya Lohewal witnessed the despair of this father who could do nothing despite hearing blood-curdling shrieks of his ward trapped in the debris.
बाहर गया था बीवी को लेके हॉस्पिटल में बेटा बेटी का दुकान पे छोड़ के गया वापस आ गया तो ऐसे हो गया अभी तक नहीं निकला निकालने के लिए कैसे निकलेगा सबसे नीचे और कैसे निकालेगा उसको कैसे पहुंचेगा मालूम ही नहीं है
कल तक आवाज आ रही थी?
हाँ कल तक शाम तक आ रहा था सुबह तक अभी तक वो हो गया और कैसे निकलेगा ये हमको मालूम नहीं है जिंदा तो नहीं होगा मरा हुआ है तो अपना बेटा बच्चा तो चाहिए हमको वो कोई नहीं
बहुत तकलीफ
बीबी भी बहुत बीमार है वही दो बच्चा था और बच्चा नहीं
Harrowing tales there of the survivors absolutely helpless in front of this natural calamity. People not knowing what to do. This father who has lost his children, in fact, while he was trying to save his wife. Many much such of these tales all across Nepal. A massive earthquake of 7.9 intensity on the Richter scale hit the Himalayan nation, and since then there has been, it's day 2 in fact, that second day now almost coming to an end. It's ending today and only bringing more bad news as far as Nepal's rescue operations are concerned. The rain is continuing. The Met Department says in the next 48 hours it is only going to increase. There will be thunder showers also accompanied by this rain, and this is going to severely hamper the relief and rescue operations. 2,500 people have now been confirmed dead. More than 6,500 are injured, and with no electricity, no water facility, no sanitation facility, it just seems that there will be some difficult days ahead for Kathmandu. Absolutely heart-wrenching tale of this father who is just waiting by his shop where his 2 children are buried.